Look at the sun. Look at the sun. Breathe the sky. Breathe the sky. Waters our blood. Good evening, everyone. This is your host, Dan Stafford, Midwestern Geek in Cali. And tonight's episode is going to be ginormous. I'm actually going to have to do it in three sections. I'll be loading fresh browser windows as I go through the show. There is just a whole bunch of stuff. Remember, I took last week and devoted it to the issues with SMS messaging. We'll get into that a little brief recap of last week's episode so you can see what I'm talking about. I thought it was pretty important to do that. So I have like 2 weeks worth of regular content to bring to you. So a lot going on, and I'm leading a busy day-to-day life too. Still working school, a lot of that, and I'll be doing some studying tomorrow as it is, back in my IT certification. So um, this episode is Midwestern Geek and Cali episode 108, and let me get over here real quick where I can grab the title for you. This is going to be Cybertruck Wars Continue with Hot-Blooded Dinosaurs. So this will be kind of fun. And we've got, like I said, quite a bit of news going on. Um, so I guess let's get a little bit of infinity screen going on here. Maybe that button. Okay. Yeah, I had a lot going on, so just trying to get it all together and get this thing out this evening. All right. So on from the infinity screen, let's head over here. This is the blog site. You can reach us at www.midwesterngeekandcali.com. Yeah, a little bit of an intro of what the show is all about, and started off as a podcast, turned into a YouTube channel, and I'm running on LBRY now. Um, I kind of like that, and so I'll be running with that for a while. We'll see how it goes. So far, so good. I don't think LBRY is quite as robust as YouTube as far as being able to consistently deliver up content, but it's not bad. It's close in a lot of ways. So we'll roll with that. And just want to point out over here on the right hand side, um, you can find the email address here. You can click on the link if you use a dedicated email client like Thunderbird or one of those. Just click on that pick there, and that'll bring up a new email for you. Or if you're using Outlook, if you're using webmail, email address is right there. And of course, you can also find our Discord, Facebook discussion group, Facebook page, um, Twitter, YouTube channel, etc. So there's multiple ways you can reach us. Okay, so this was the episode last week, episode 107, The Shadows Eating the Whispers of the World. And we're basically talking about the dramatic insecurity of SMS text messaging and how unaware people are of it. You can catch the description right there. That'll get you a quick understanding of what the episode was about. As always, you can come here and catch many previous episodes. Most stuff is here. And if you scroll all the way to the bottom and hit older posts. You can go to previous episodes. You also can go by episode number. That is going to be right up here under episode lists, episodes 1 through 50, 50 through 1. I usually do it oldest to newest and newest to oldest, so that way you can, it's a little easier to navigate through everything if you got both ways to do it. And if you actually go into one of these, let's go into 100 through 51, you'll see that you have the titles of all the episodes as well as the episode number. So it's yeah, pretty user friendly. I'm going to go ahead and close that out because it opens in a new tab. And then I'm going to go ahead and get rolling on the first segment here. This is the uh, Cybertruck Warzone. All right. I'm getting a little tired. It's been a long day and a long night already. So give me just a sec. I need to slam some of that Geek Fuel down. Uh, so this one is video showcases 7 electric pickup trucks worth waiting for. It's a YouTube, I believe a YouTube video on Inside EVs. Yeah, it looks like YouTube. Anyway, so definitely a nice video to check out. A little comparative shopping there for electric trucks, given what's currently known about the state of the industry. So uh, that's pretty self-explanatory. I won't take a deep dive into it. All right, Cybertruck competitors, Tesla Cybertruck, Rivian R1T, other electric pickup trucks compared. Another comparison video. And yeah. So really not a lot for me to tell about this one other than to let you know it's there and go watch the video because these videos are cool and fun. All right. This one. This one. Watch a tiny tri-motor Tesla Cybertruck out tug a Ford F-150. Notice how small this Cybertruck actually looks compared to the F-150. This is a custom-made half-scale Cybertruck made by um, let's see who did this. Inside EVs, I think. Anyway, they made this Cybertruck themselves in their own shop. So this is a homemade Cybertruck. It's not Tesla produced, and it's not an official Tesla product, but it is a replica based on the engineering of the Cybertruck done at half scale. It is fully drivable, and I highly recommend this video. It is a boatload of fun, and this little half scale Cybertruck is really, really cool. Ah, excuse me, folks. Sorry, I'm just having one of those evenings where I didn't get to do this as early as I wanted to. So, anyway, that one is one in particular I recommend. I really enjoyed the heck out of that video, so I would strongly suggest going and giving it a watch again. It's Watch Tiny Tri-Motor Tesla truck, Cybertruck Out Tug a Ford F-150 Pickup. And I believe the title showing over here is, yeah, it matches. Okay, so we're going to scoot on from there and let this reload. Tesla Cybertruck's real-time response to payload via active suspension will upend the pickup industry. So this is pretty cool. This gets a little more into the engineering under the Cybertruck, literally under the Cybertruck. And take a look at that tailgate. That is pretty cool too. You got a telescoping tailgate, so you got a built-in ramp there. I'm just noticing that right now. Is that not cool or what? So if you're going to pull something like a quad runner or some such in there, or you're just going to dolly a load of stuff up, I mean, that's pretty interesting right there. I kind of like that. Now, not going to get any further into that article. I'll let you go and read it on your own. As you know, I always encourage going to read these articles yourself. Tesla Cybertruck is turned into police vehicle by Ontario police. That's pretty fascinating right there. Uh, so, interesting story. Now we have a Cybertruck police interceptor. Wow. Okay, up in Canada, of course. And then Edmunds talks to Cybertruck with and its industry appeal amid growing competition. So this is going to be a pretty serious discussion over on Edmunds. I'd suggest you go take a look. I'm going to kind of go through the news fairly quickly tonight because I have, like I said, an awful lot to go through. Lordstown Motors, this they bought an entire GM manufacturing plant that had been idled along with all the equipment in it, and they're coming up with their own electric truck. The specs on it looks pretty interesting, and it looks like it's going to be a pretty cool looking truck. Here you go. Here's a quick shot of it, but I'd suggest going over and reading the article. Um, Again, like the Rivian R1T, this is a little bit more in line with traditional truck manufacturing as far as overall look and layout of the truck, but it looks like it's got some pretty interesting specs. All right, here we go. Mattel's remote control Tesla Cybertruck comes with its own cracked window sticker. Yeah, they made a Cybertruck Hot Wheel and it's electric like the old Sizzlers from the late 1960s or early 1970s. And it will ride on Hot Wheel tracks. Yep, there's a limited edition Cybertruck Hot Wheel car. Have fun. Now, I gotta say here, I had an enormous Hot Wheel track set in the right around 1970 when I was a kid, about 8 years old. I had the best Hot Wheels set in town, and it was about three different sets actually put together and about 30 cars. And of course, my brother disappeared it all. But anyway, um, here we go. Tesla Cybertruck and Roadster face off for some backyard, back road mayhem and fan video. So they have a little bit of a drag race between Cybertruck and Roadster there. How they accomplish that, I'm not sure. Cybertruck pre-orders reach 500,000, tally suggests. All right, so that's pretty stout. Already 500,000 trucks on order, and it's 2 years from production. So I guess I'm not the only one that kind of likes it. I think this Cybertruck is really a kind of you love it or you hate it kind of thing. Yeah, and I definitely fall into the former camp on this. All right. Tesla Cybertruck release date, specs, price doesn't look like anything else. Yeah, it's the only thing I can compare this to is the DeLorean and Back to the Future. It reminds me a lot of that, but um, I really dig it. And here you go. Here's as much as they know right now about when it's coming out and how much it's going to cost and specs and all that. All right. So here we go with Volvo getting in the act with an electric semi. So it's interesting that this thing has a grill on the front, and you can see it's got kind of a whacked out paint job. They're maybe trying to disguise the looks of it a little bit. Or this is a stock footage of an existing, um, fossil fuel powered Volvo semi and just to illustrate the story, and it's not actually what the truck looks like. I'm not sure, but uh, oh, And this one hits home right here for us geeks in California. It will be used in a pilot program to haul cargo from the port of Los Angeles to regional distribution hubs in Southern California's Inland Empire, which is where Temecula is. There's massive warehousing up north of here in Ontario. So that makes a lot of sense. It's one of the biggest warehousing hubs and distribution center hubs in the country in Ontario, which is about 35 minutes north of here. So that makes a lot of sense. All right. Tesla Model S nears 400-mile range, and this is just the tip of the iceberg. So they're going to get into improvements in battery and technology, and extending the range of the car. But a 400-mile range is pretty right up there with what you can get out of a gasoline car. The only difference is how long it takes to charge versus filling a tank of gas. So, and with the superchargers, it's not that bad. So I find that interesting. Of course, we're getting into the car side of things a little bit here. And then Elon Musk, Tesla Cybertruck will come with standard laser blade lights and be 82 inches wide. So they're adjusting the width of the Cybertruck a little bit, and they're definitely keeping the lighting style. Um, so I'm kind of hip on that. I like that. That's one of the things I like about the Cybertruck is the lighting on it. So uh, I'm finding that interesting. And again, come over and check the article out on your own. This was an interesting article. Hyundai gets serious on electric cars and still does not understand demand. In other words, the bottom line here is they're saying Hyundai is underproducing volume for the electric car market, and they could be selling a lot more if they were producing more. And there's more in depth on that article, but that's the bottom line of it. All right, designer offers up cyber sedan to Tesla CEO Elon Musk. So they want to turn this thing into more of a Cybertruck derived sedan. And of course, it's got video here with it. So go take a peek. Uh, so we have managed to get ourselves a pop up in the mix here. Somehow, interesting. Let me see maybe if I've got an article that went missing here. Yeah, that would be this one. Oh, they're being troublesome about that. They want us to subscribe. All right, well, basically, the bottom line was electric cars threaten to pull the plug on petrol station. So we'll go ahead and let that one go. But problem they're talking about is gas stations being under threat from demand as electric cars take over. That gas stations will become harder and harder to find, and also it's be more difficult for them to survive because if people don't have a reason to go to gas stations, they're going to become nothing but little convenience stores with no fueling. That's the bottom line. Here's one Tesla owner lives in a Model 3 instead of her house. I believe this is the future. Well, it's happening with a lot of people out here in California, that's for sure. There's a lot of people working who just can't afford a house because they don't make enough money with the real estate market. And that is especially true along the coast and in the bigger cities on the coast. Inland, not as much, but over on the coastlines, definitely is a big phenomenon over there. And apparently, there's some pretty good YouTube video to go with this. So, um, yeah, mind blowing Tesla tiny house. So, yeah, That's a pretty cool one, and there's definitely some good video content along with that. And with that, we are going to get out of the cyber zone and into Cybertruck zone and into space, the final frontier, which means I need to be opening a bunch of browser tabs here in order to show you the stories that we're going to be talking about in a minute. So bear with me for a moment because I have about 3 segments like this where I have um, got to open a whole bunch more browser tabs. I just could not open all, this many browser tabs in one session. It's just way too much. I think I doubled up one there. See, I usually do this part before the show, but in this case, I'm going to have to do it now. So, as you can see, there is quite a bit of yeah, I think I missed one here. All right. We're gonna have to try a few more. Hopefully I can get to them all. All right. Thank you for bearing with me on this. And I think we got a couple more of them here. Whew, that's a lot. As you can see, I've got what about 25 browser tabs open there. So, should NASA send New Horizons to a nearby star for its final mission? Now, New Horizons actually uses electric propulsion, so it can actually get itself up to pretty high speed depending on how much fuel is left on board. But electric propulsion is actually um, a really fuel efficient form of rocket propulsion in space. It kicks the exhaust out the back at a much higher speed, so you get a lot more thrust for the same amount of fuel. So with these ion thrusters, they can actually do a very low thrust, but for months and months and months at a time. So it's not altogether infeasible that they could actually send New Horizons to a nearby star. It'd have to be something like Alpha Centauri, but I think it would be such a long time getting there. I don't know what the utility of it would be. So I'm going to go ahead and move on from that. Musk reads. This is an interesting subset of the Inverse website, Musk reads. It's a series of articles. You'll see a couple of them in this evening's show. Why SpaceX's Mars City could become a beacon of innovation. So they've got some theories on that, and I think like the Apollo program before it, it brought a whole boatload of new technology online. And not to mention which on Mars, there's no existing development standing in the way of innovative development. Unlike on Earth, where we have massive investment in existing infrastructure that people who've invested in all that capital in that infrastructure want to wring every last dime out of it before they invest in new infrastructure. So on Mars, there's no existing infrastructure to compete with the new infrastructure. So let's move on from that one. Uh, Los Angeles approves a 20-year SpaceX lease for the Starship rocket facility in the city's port. Now, I talked a little bit on this in the last episode that this lease was pending. Apparently, the lease has been approved. So, SpaceX, um, I can't remember how long it was, but yeah, 20 years. So, they're going to lease area in the port of Los Angeles where they can build Starship rockets and then send them over to the launch facility. So that's good news for LA. That's good news for SpaceX. And it's good news for the Starship program. So pretty cool there. And here we go. SpaceX transported Starship SN1 to the launch pad at Boca Chica. This is down in Texas, where they currently are producing Starship prototypes. And this Starship prototype is going to be getting flown up to 20 miles high pretty soon, as I understand it. So this is pretty exciting news. Definitely come over and give that a read. And here we have more details on um, SpaceX, on Elon Musk's plans to settle Mars. And believe me, Starship figures in those plans very much. That's a very large piece of that plan. So, more details on that. Go check this one out. All right. Now, SpaceX to play a bigger role in this massive live fire Air Force exercise. This, I believe, has to do with the Starlink satellites relaying communications for military purposes. I think that is going to be a subset of the revenue stream for the Starlink satellite system. So, on that note, again with the winky blinky pop up, pop under, and in your face, moving around, ads the American web is so ADHD. Just saying. Anyway, SpaceX to play a bigger role in this massive live fire Air Force exercise, and that's definitely for those of you interested in military applications and the long-term survival of the Starlink satellite network. This would be an article for you. All right, so SpaceX Starlink price, launch date, and how to see Elon Musk's constellation. So, if you're an amateur astronomer and you want to look at artificial satellites, there you go. This is one way to do it, and then guesstimates on pricing when, as much as they know about when the birds are going up, and there you go. All right. So Max Q on how to build a starship on TechCrunch. And this is an artist concept of Starship at fully assembled and launching. Uh, as you can see, it's a pretty big bird. Love that artwork. That's great. And that is a pretty cool article in and of itself. So definitely go check it out. All right, so Musk reads. Here we go. Another Musk reads on Inverse, and Starlink edges closer to going live. So here we go. They're talking about all kinds of things, Elon Musk, and I will be as well. But Starlink going live, that's anticipated to happen by the end of this year for the northern half of the United States and probably southern Canada. So I'm not sure on the Canada part though because of legalities. I don't know about that piece yet. But um, that would be good news if true. So best estimates, guesstimates, etc. This is a place to look. All right. Space travel breakthrough. This 100,000 mile per hour plasma engine promises to cut travel to Mars. They're talking about fusion reactor, a reactor driving a plasma based rocket. And again, with the exhaust velocity, but they're also talking high volume of exhaust with high velocity. So if that comes to pass, that would be a pretty big freaking deal. Yeah, I'm not familiar with the Express website, but um, I mean, I've seen it before, but I don't really know a whole lot about it. But definitely, if they can get fusion reactors uh, working in in a small form that kicks off plasma rockets, that would be a pretty big deal. So, interesting one there. And then Elon Musk says SpaceX Starlink satellites Albedo will drop significantly on almost every successive launch. In other words, they're doing everything they can to reduce the interference with ground-based astronomy that is happening as a result of all these satellites being launched into orbit and getting into the photographic. Well, it's probably digital now, but it used to be done with photographic plates with long-term exposure, and I'm assuming there's a digital version of the same thing in astronomy. And from what I understand, they've been seeing streaks in the um, photos that they're taking of objects in space with scopes, and it's interfering with actual astronomy to some extent already. And so SpaceX is doing their best to respond to that in the Starlink satellite network. And this goes a little bit more in depth on what exactly they're trying to do to improve their coexistence with ground-based astronomy, which I think is commendable and necessary. All right, another must read. Starlink edges closer to going live. I think actually this is a duplicate from me trying to click all these links as fast as I can. SpaceX's first Starship test flight imminent as rocket nose cone nears completion. Now, believe it or not, they were actually having a little bit of trouble getting this nose cone manufactured, and now they've kind of whooped it, and they're getting close to being done with it. And this is a critical piece of the first Starship launch, so really good news there. Of course, a lot more in depth in the article itself, so go check it out. And this one, I just loved it because of the pick. Orion and his demi-star Betelgeuse shine over a stargazer in the sentimental night sky photo. And I think that's just a really great photo. So anyway, we'll drop that off. All right, duplicate there. Again, clicking too many links too fast. SpaceX is rapidly building Starship SN1 and a vehicle assembly building at Boca Chica. All right, so this is a little further along than what you saw in the other article, but it's definitely making progress. So pretty cool there, and of course some very much in depth. And then SpaceX will launch private citizens into orbit. Now, here is space tourism for you. So they're going to be competing with Virgin Galactic in a fashion. And it looks like end of next year or early 2022. Don't know how much it'll cost, but check out the article. It looks to be interesting. All right, so this goes into more details about the LA Port Starship construction facility. And obviously, this article came out a little bit before the other one that said that the lease was guaranteed or approved. So definitely, this one's going to have more details on what they're trying to do there. All right. So, did ancient aliens send us messages every 16 days? And either way, it's time to listen in our own galaxy. So, if you've ever heard of a fast radio burst, usually it's a one-off kind of thing. There'll be a star that goes through some kind of catastrophic event. We don't know exactly what causes these things, but it shoots a brief but very strong burst of radio waves in our direction, and we pick them up here on Earth, and those are known as fast radio bursts because they're usually fractions of a second, but very, very powerful. Well, here we have one that's been discovered in the last week or so, maybe 2 weeks, that has been repeating every 16 days. Now, let me tell you, this is not a common event. So it's pretty interesting, and they're studying the heck out of this thing. Um, and so there, don't rule it out. There actually could have been ancient aliens, but I want to say this thing is several hundred light years. What is it? It's 500 million light years away. So anything that we're receiving now was sent 500 million years ago. Just FYI. All right, here we go. Virgin Galactic space plane relocated to Spaceport America. Virgin Galactic is planning on doing space tourism out of the Nevada desert. And this is an update on what's going on with them. And this promises to be interesting, but I think last time I heard anything about it, they were talking pricing around 100 grand for a trip to space. So go check it out and dream like me. All right. NASA says SpaceX will be first to launch astronauts from American soil since 2011. That looks more and more likely as time progresses. I think we're talking. Oh, NASA's even confirmed it now. So I think we're talking sometime soon. This spring, if I remember correctly. Go check the article out. It's been a little bit since I've had time to read it. Astronomers to sweep the entire sky for signs of extraterrestrial life. This is planning on using a combination of SETI technology and the very large array radio telescope array in New Mexico, which could be a very powerful combination along with more advanced AI. Of course, SETI and their software work have not stood still, but this could dramatically improve the search process. So it's actually a pretty big deal for SETI to get this going on. Now, this one I really like. It turns out rust is a great shield for deadly space radiation. Apparently, rust, iron oxide, plain old rust, like is on the bottom of all those cars in Wisconsin, on the top of all those cars in Houston, uh, is pretty good at blocking cosmic radiation. Now, I'm kind of wondering when I read this if it would go along pretty well with the radiation eating what was it, fungus over there at the Chernobyl nuclear reactor that they found. I mean, could we have a little bit of a 1-2 fungus rust combination going on? I of all the things, I mean that's pretty amazing. So pretty interesting article there. Go check it out. And Yeah, okay. No, thank you. Supercomputer to scan the entire sky for signs of alien signals and technology. Again, this is talking about SETI and the VLA, Very Large Array Radio Telescope. This is another take and a little bit more focused on the supercomputer side of it, but again, a big deal. And that's where we get to go back to Earth, Earthman or Earthwoman. And now I get to open a bunch more windows because we got tech and science. So, 2, 3, 4. All right, that was the nuclear fusion, wood waste, researchers. As you can see, I really had a lot to go through tonight, so um, bear with me here because this is probably about 3 times what I did on the last episode with this format. Uh, okay, we'll get to that next segment in a couple of minutes. Believe me, we're actually getting towards the back end of this one. Let's Encrypt issues 1 billionth web security certificate. So Let's Encrypt is basically a nonprofit consortium that is trying to help lower end websites get free security certificates so they can change their websites over from HTTP, which is unencrypted clear text, to HTTPS, which is secure encrypted across the entire website. Now, this is an expensive proposition going with the commercial solutions that are already available. I know I've designed websites for small businesses and personal, and it's expensive to encrypt an entire website. And Let's Encrypt is actually trying to give smaller websites and website operators access to free encryption for their websites. So this is a really valuable uh, thing here for small websites, and it's one of the things that I think helps keep the web what the web is. And let's see here real quick where to go. There is a link in here that I wanted to point out. Mm, 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 mm. Uh, you know what? I might have to drop into my inbox and get that. But definitely a big, important article if you're a small website operator or you're thinking about getting a small website for yourself. This is an article you definitely want to see. All right. So the EU is making the switch to Signal as its messaging app of choice. And then I believe their diplomatic corps is using an undisclosed secret messaging application that's even more secure than Signal. But definitely the EU is dumping everything but Signal for official communications, other than the really, really highly secure ones use something that we don't even know what it is. So they're taking seriously the same stuff that I was talking about in episode 107. Big deal here. So, pretty interesting article. Go ahead and check it out, especially if you liked what I was talking about on the last episode. All right. Thank you for the pop-up ad. Why the U.S. government is questioning WhatsApp's encryption because they want to spy on everybody. Of course, you know, Not just criminals, anybody and everybody. They want to know it all. All right, here you go. But anyway, this one here again, they're getting into um, encryption and wanting to basically make it difficult for that to be done. Uh, so this is a different take on nuclear fusion, much smaller and more stable reactors. This is really, really interesting. Hydrogen, boron, and a little luck doesn't need any radioactive fuel, doesn't produce any radioactive byproducts, and it appears like they may really be onto something here. We'll have to see how this plays out, but if you're into nuclear fusion, this is a really, really interesting article, this one here on Popular Mechanics. Of course, with the blinky, blinky pop-up stuff. All right. Wood waste makes recycled concrete stronger than ever. So this is really good for carbon emissions, and it it uses the same stuff that makes trees strong and flexible at the same time to be able to take recycled concrete and make it even stronger than when it was first created. So, very interesting article. Hey, Chuck, if you're happening to watch this episode and made it through this far, this one would be a good one for you to take a peek at. All right, researchers achieved 10 times supercapacitor energy density breakthrough. Supercapacitors are interesting. They're kind of a capacitor is kind of like a battery. The difference is that capacitors charge like right away and they also release their energy like right away. So capacitors generally are something you would want to use in conjunction with the battery because the battery holds power and lets it go a little bit at a time over a long period of time, but it also has to charge a little bit at a time over a long period of time. Supercapacitors charge up right away and release their energy right away. And regular capacitors do basically the same thing. Supercapacitors have a lot more storage. Sorry about that, but moving on.
I'm Rick Newman
Okay,
at the winter
as
meeting of the National Governors
yeah, of
Association in
course.
Washington, D.
Let's just go right into the video. All right. I wish it would not autoplay like that. But anyhow, as essential as roads, how one of America's most rural states became a broadband leader. This is talking about North Dakota. Believe it or not, North Dakota, of all states, which is very lightly populated and geographically dispersed, has gotten to be one of the better connected states in the country. So if you're into broadband and you see rural broadband as a particular issue, like I do, I think the rural folk are very dramatically underserved by the broadband industry. And this is a really interesting story and kind of a good one. All right, so we'll move on from there. Windows as we know it is dead. What comes next? All right, so Microsoft's organizational change combining Windows and Surface groups have met a big impact on quality, reliability, and well, it's a shifting world with Windows. I strongly recommend that if you're a home user, you consider moving over to Linux, and if you're an enterprise user, then stick with Windows. I think that's the way the world is starting to shake out now. And believe me, there's it's getting more and more difficult to keep up with what Windows is doing if you're just a small home user. But if you're an enterprise user, some of the innovations that are coming along with Windows are really interesting and look like they might be good in the long term. Uh, Enterprise being, larger corporations and businesses. So that's kind of my opinion on it. But I think this is an interesting take and perspective on what's happening with Windows. And I think everyone should give it at least a quick skim, if not a good read. All right. Ultrasound device improves charge time and runtime in lithium batteries. So this is about improving the speed of charging and how long the lithium batteries last. This is a really fascinating discovery. It's a little bit in depth about some of the components about lithium batteries, but it's a bigger story than it sounds like. So definitely worth a read. All right, and then here we go. Danish energy giant plans to revolutionize the U.S. grid. I think this is pretty fascinating, and they got to be talking about more than just doing the windmills because you have to be able to switch the load and generation to match it and match up with each other to keep the load and generation balanced rapidly. That's one of the biggest hamstrings in the current electric grid in the US, and I believe they're getting into some of that. And offshore wind, which is a big deal. We have probably one of the largest coastlines in the world with the most amount of wind and barely any turbines in the water. So the amount of available energy along the U.S. coastlines and wind energy, and it's just amazing how much we have left untapped. It blows my mind. Researchers combine lasers and terahertz waves in a camera that sees unseen detail. Now, terahertz or T-rays, as they're more commonly called, are kind of like X-rays without the ionizing radiation. They don't cause the same kind of radiation issues that X-rays do, and they can see a lot more fine green detail. So this is a really interesting development, and I read about this probably 15, 20 years ago that they were trying to work on this for things like airport security and a whole host of other uses, scientific uses, surveillance uses, um, security usages. It's a pretty big deal. So, interesting article. Sorry, too much talking too fast and too late in the evening. Microsoft Remote Desktop for Windows updated with useful new features. Basically, copy and paste right over my Remote Desktop. That's kind of a big deal. Interesting article. New green technology generates electricity out of thin air, uses water droplets and some organic proteins in order to create electricity just right out of moisture in the air. You're talking some pretty cool stuff going on there, especially for smaller devices. Privacy focused messenger Signal is ready to go mainstream and take on WhatsApp. This is about the Signal Foundation and what they're doing to improve the Signal app to the point where it's just as high quality with way better privacy even than WhatsApp. I think this is a very interesting article in light of episode 107. I think it's well worth a read, and go ahead and check it out. Best free and open source alternatives to Google Keep on Android. Now, if you don't know what Google Keep is, let me take and show you real quick. I'm going to open a new tab and then I'm going to go to keep.google.com. I do believe it is. All right, so this is Google Keep. And basically, what I can do is I can create like to-do lists. Uh, it would help if I can tighten it up. And then let's see. Um, Okay. Okay, so I can create these lists of things to do, and then I can go in and I can kind of color code the list. Let's make this one orangey kind of, and then as I get them done, well, I haven't done that one, so let's see. Go get more ginger beer. I'm kind of tempted to walk over to the little fridge and grab one right now, but I won't because I'm in the middle of the show. But then I click it off as done, and you see it's lined out and checked off down here. Of course, I could uncheck it and bring it back up to the top of the list if I needed to do it again, or I can just kind of hide everything in there. So you can kind of use it for a running to-do list. There's other things that you can do, and this saves to your account in the cloud. So you can create multiple to-do lists. You can go over and pin one, and it stays up to the top, or you can unpin it. Um, there's just a whole ton of things you can do. New note with a drawing. You can do new notes with a picture, or just take a regular note. Um, you can do reminders. So Google Keep is really handy. It's free. It's been around for quite a while. I use it for several things at work and a few things at home. And here are some free and open source alternatives to Google Keep if you don't like keeping all that information in your Google Cloud account. So just an interesting article for those of us geeks out here. All right, scientists discovered how to use time crystals to power superconductors. To be honest, I need to reread this one. It's very Doctor Who-ish looking. It sounds like a really cool title, and I need to read deeper on it. But I think this is talking about making quantum computers much more stable. I think that's the bottom line of this article. So, very, very interesting stuff here, and a big deal in the quantum computing world there. Microsoft plans to improve File Explorer on Windows 10. Now, File Explorer, if you look where my mouse is going down here, it's this little manila envelope thing that allows you to open up and start looking at all the files that are on your computer. No, I'm not going to open that up right now, but they're planning on making improvements to it, improvements in search and navigation. I don't think they're showing the new and improved version here. I think they're showing the existing stuff. But it's an interesting article, and it's been a while since this happened. So this is pretty cool. Pretty cool indeed. Now, Data Doctors, is the Brave browser safe to use? Brave is actually a browser. Here's their logo, the little look lion, like Brave, like the cowardly lion. After he got his, it wasn't a heart, that was a Tin Woodsman. After he got his courage or whatever. Uh, but it is a highly security and privacy focused browser. Browsers are like Firefox or Chrome or Opera or Microsoft Edge or Microsoft Internet Explorer. Those are all browsers. Brave is specifically focused on privacy. So this is a pretty interesting article if you're into that kind of thing. So here we go. Tesla is already doing stuff like solar roofs. They're doing those big, huge battery installations, which there is a massive one that just got approved in California. That'll be in next week. And there's a huge one down in Australia. battery for wind energy and solar energy storage so that they can continue producing power when the wind and sun stop. And this is talking about software for managing whole house energy management. So that's an interesting one. Everything you need to know about the new Firefox VPN. This is kind of a big deal, but there's also an even bigger deal coming in Linux called WireGuard. So you're into virtual private networks. So virtual private networks, what that does is there's a piece of software on your computer. This they're embedding it in the browser, and that software on your computer, as soon as it sees an internet connection, it reaches out to a server on the internet, and what it does is it establishes an encrypted connection between it and the server, so that everything going across between it and that server is encrypted and can't be read by third parties in the middle. So it's about secure communications, and this is about securing everything on the internet so that it's not snoopable. Um, Mozilla has been into this for years as far as privacy focused and stuff like that. Now they're actually doing something really about it. So now we're going to get into a little bit about the Hyperloop. So I need to open some more tabs. Hmm. All right. I wish I'd gotten to do this earlier. Unfortunately, I just couldn't get to it that soon. So I've got one, two, three open, and we'll finish out the section with that. And then we just have a little bit of short, fun stuff at the end. We'll get to that soon. But Elon Musk's Boring Company quietly deploys its custom designed tunneling machine. So they're talking about a new tunneling machine that's designed um, to tunnel at several times the speed of existing tunneling machines. So they're going to make tunneling, large utility tunnels and transportation tunnels, happen much faster than current technology allows, and they're putting the new advanced tunneling machine in the field now. Now, they did not use the advanced tunneling machine in that tunnel that they built in Las Vegas just recently. That was like a double speed one. This is going to be like something on the order of like 10 times as fast as traditional tunneling technology. So big, big deal in tunneling here, and there's a reason why I'm bringing this one up in particular. We touched on the transportation tunnel going on down in Texas. And here we go. Elon Musk Boring Company completes Las Vegas tunnel major milestone. In other words, they got one tunnel done. There's going to be two tunnels, one going one way and one going the other. Well, they got the first half of that done. They got one tunnel done. Now they need to do the other one. Now they're doing it with the new tunneling machine, so it should go even faster. But this is basically a prototype tunnel to be used in Vegas, but now they're talking about doing hyperloops in continent-wide travel. You're talking high-speed underground in-tunnel trains, basically, that are faster than air travel. This is a big, big deal if this happens. And the tunneling technology is what's going to make it possible. So, just saying those three stories read together lead to a larger context than any one of those stories by themselves. All right, Elon's secret sauce. This gets into a little bit more of the personality and stuff, but it goes into a little bit deeper into his underlying accomplishments. Actually, this guy has gotten some really interesting stuff off the ground, you know, so kind of a big deal. All right, and here we go. Dinosaurs. New study upends a belief many learned in elementary school. It looks like dinosaurs are not cold-blooded reptiles, but actually warm-blooded like mammals. And we're talking T-Rex, of course, and other dinosaurs. So this is an interesting story, and for those of you fascinated with dinosaurs, this is a really cool one to read. All right. So now we're going to get into a little bit of um, science fiction reading, and give me just a second because there's also a picture file that I need to open for you. And we'll bring that up and then go back over here and get to this real quick. So, Elon Musk shares the science fiction book series that inspired him to start SpaceX. Now, I can relate because the series that he's talking about in this article, I read myself. And if you remember back in episode, let me see, yeah, was no, I don't think it was not 106, but I believe 105. Let me skip back there real quick. Episode 105, nope, 104. Electrifying reading and cybertrucking. And then we get into this. And if you look right down here, Isaac Asimov and his robot visions. I told you basically that Arthur C. Clarke, Isaac Asimov, and where is it? Robert Heinlein. Those are like the three grand masters of 20th century science fiction. And the book that Musk is talking about is one of Asimov's series. It's also a series that I read myself. I read the same series as a teenager, so I recommend you go check out the article and find out what series it is. But it was a really good one, and it inspired Elon Musk to do the entire SpaceX company, the whole SpaceX thing, Starship, Starlink, all that kind of stuff. Um, it's pretty amazing that that was his inspiration, but then it was a pretty amazing book series. So just wanted to say. And then this is my science fiction throwback of the week, Quazzle by Alan Dean Foster. And despite the goofy looking cover on it, this actually was a really good book. I mean, I picked it up just because I was looking for some sci-fi and I had read through most of the stuff that was out at the time. And I used to have this in my book collection. And it actually is a pretty fascinating book. So if you want a really great throwback, go and look this book up and give it a read. It is a pretty cool story. So we'll go ahead and drop that, and then we'll get to the tail end. Only got a couple more here. All right, so Stranger Things season 4, Hopper returns. So this is, I don't want to spoil anything more than that, so I'm going to drop it before it starts playing the video. But yeah, Hopper's coming back on Stranger Things, and I actually kind of love that show. So a little bit of sci-fi here is what we're into for the tail end of this. And then Jodie Whittaker saying she 100 percent believes in aliens, talks about her spiritualism, and quite a few other things. So let's close that out. And yeah, this is pretty interesting. Matter of fact, when I get done with the show, I'm gonna go back and read this over myself. So I'm gonna leave it up on the screen. So there you have it. That is a massive episode for the evening, and I'm just about done recording. We'll get back on the infinity screen here for a minute, and I'm gonna pop the glasses off, take another sip of Geek Fuel, and we'll throw this over to the camera. And whew, long one there. That's 2 weeks worth and 2 weeks of heavy news worth. So I hope you enjoyed that. I hope it gave you some interesting things to go take a look at. Of course, as always, the show notes will be on the website. So any of those articles that interested you, all you got to do is go to MidwesternGeekandCali.com, look up episode 108, and you will find all the links to those shows right there on the blog, and you can go in and check out any one of them you want to. Um, Matter of fact, and I'm going to go in there on the image file in Quazzle and get you an image, get you a link in there before I actually post this episode. And that way you can go and pick up the book if you so desire. And definitely check out that Isaac Asimov series. It is probably one of the best series in science fiction. So just saying. And on that note, thank you everyone for taking the time. I know this has been a long episode and I've been yawning my tail off. All this talking and it just dries me up. And I know it's I love to do it, but it's not my forte in a way. Um, so again, check us out on MidwesternGeekandCali.com. Hit us on the Facebook discussion group. Hit me up on Twitter at MidwesternGeekCali. If you go to MidwesternGeekandCali.com, you can find all the social media links on the right sidebar under the Geek Links section. And on that note, happy Vulcan fingers to you from the agent of 42. May there never be a rogue wave in your coffee mug, and enjoy the rest of your weekend. And be safe out there and don't let any rockets drop on your head. All right. All right. Thanks, everyone. Have a great night, and I'll be back next week, hopefully with not quite so big an episode and a little earlier in the evening. Thanks.
Look at the sun. Look at the sun. Breathe the sky. Breathe the sky.